Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another scene set within Vampire the Masquerade Sells at Midnight. Tonight within Port Royal, not too far from the Docklands, under the veil of obfuscation, Macaria, elder of Clan Malkavian, has escorted her wounded, blinded child to her haven. A fairly large manor house, about the size of an inn, could fit many people. There, Rosemary is escorted in. Perhaps not entirely familiar with where she is, certainly not through sight. But after a mile of walking around, she might be familiar with the general direction she is going, as she finds herself seated on a chair, but isn't really sure if it's before a desk, a table, or if it's in the center of a room. But she can hear the heavy creaking of the floorboards, which would suggest perhaps she is upper floor. That and the fact that she went up the stairs, but
So Rosemary is she has like her hands kind of out in front of her to kind of feel around where she is at currently. Um,
it's largely just air space. Like the chair isn't really that close to anything.
mm-hmm.
If you kind of reach around the back of the chair, um, you feel what appears to be like a desk of some sort. It's
Mm-hmm.
fairly short in length, so you'd reckon it's probably a bedside desk.
Okay. Um, so in that case, um, she's going to probably, I'd say, um, kind of, I guess, reach out and see if she can feel around for Masaria and see if she can touch her.
When when you reach around, Masaria's pretty quick to grab your wrist and kind of guide your hands back in her general direction.
Okay. Um, there are whimpers of pain because she's still really hurt pretty badly at this point in time.
What happened, my child? What happened to you?
She will tell her what happened. There was a priest who was preaching in the town square, and she went up to him and tried to aggressively convince him to preach elsewhere, specifically in Havana, given the Sabbat presence currently in Havana. It would deal with two problems at once. Those were her reasons for doing what she did, despite her suffering as a result of it. She didn't know that the was part of the Inquisition. She had no idea. Um, but she thought that perhaps guiding him or pushing him towards Havana would help solve the problem of the Sabbat. specifically a certain member of Clan La Sombra and the blood boon that is owed to him by a member of the Anarch movement.
Who's the, hmm, there's a third person in the chat for some reason.
In which one?
Never mind. They can't connect anywhere. The devices aren't connected. But yeah. Sorry, will go. Silly girl, you should know better than to approach a witch hunter.
I didn't know that he was a witch hunter, Mother. I didn't know. I didn't know until after he did what he did to me. But now that we know that the Inquisition's there, and at a cost to myself, I'm wondering what's going to happen next.
You have revealed yourself to them. They will look for you now.
How could I have revealed myself to them if they already knew we were here? We just lie about it and say that he's wrong and not to give credence. Oh shit. Oh shit. God
um,
damn it.
I heard there was a flock that was being messed with. I came as quickly as I could.
my fledgling has been wounded.
Anyways.
Yes.
Um.
I came to give some GM rulings.
Oh, great. Okay.
And to be a sheep.
Right.
I mean,
Cool.
I welcome the sheep part at least.
Yes.
All right. So, question: has Rosemary attempted to, or been given enough blood to heal any of the damage she has so far suffered?
Yeah, I'm feeding her blood.
Yep.
Okay. Do you heal some of the aggravated damage?
Yes, I will.
All right. It is a slow, laborious, and very painful process, particularly as you've never done this before. You would assume that you would be much more resilient than this, but no. As the blood burns away, your eyes start to mend themselves. Each point that you manage to heal, your eyesight becomes gradually better.
Okay.
First point, you can start to make out light from darkness. Second, you can define shapes. And third, you'll be able to see again.
Okay.
We'll make it a gradual process. I think she's only healed the one for now.
Okay. You can distinguish light from darkness.
Okay, cool. Sweet. So, you totally like popped in as I was saying something. So Rosemary will say to Macaria, "Are we just to avoid giving credence to their words, or?"
Masario looks somewhat frustrated in a lot of what you said. Hennessy, stop violating my domain. She will say you clearly did something. Faith is a retaliatory force, and your eyes have been burnt out. What did you mean when you said aggressive persuasion?
I tried to use disciplines on him.
There is a pause.
I tried to convince him, to sway him to give him a more important mission to, if the way I see it, and it's the way I understand it, the Sabbat are a threat to all of us, and the Sabbat are a threat to the Anarch movement as of right now. And if I know, maybe this
So
is
you had the bright idea of walking up to a religious fanatic and attempting to bluntly compel them to travel to an entirely different island.
I tried to bluntly compel him to find a new crusade to fight. Apparently, much to my chagrin, it did not work. Because if one fanatic can fight another fanatic, does that not bode well for us? Does that not mean that... I suppose I saw it as a way of dealing with two problems at once. Perhaps it was foolish of me, perhaps it was wise of me, perhaps that was...
It was foolish of you. Your power does not entitle you to act as a hammer upon a nail. If we were so powerful, things were so simple, do you believe we would have a masquerade?
No.
We exist within the shadows because we must, because of entities as them, because once they almost destroyed us. I would not see those fires reach this island. I would not see them burn again. I would not see them burn you.
She sighs.
I lost many good friends to the fires of the Inquisition.
Then how do we stamp this fire out if it's already here? It's already set in embers, Mother.
As we have done before.
Do we fight, or do we just pretend that they aren't a problem? Because if the Inquisition is here, and
Those who fought the Inquisition in the way that you suggest were burned at the stake.
I believe you, and
This is a conflict that must be fought with subtlety and handled from a distance.
I guess I suppose in my way I thought I was being subtle, but apparently I was wrong, and I'm sorry. I thought that I was helping. I thought that if they turn their vision towards dealing with the Sabbat, then we would all be left alone.
Hey, Macaria, you in a house? You in a nice house?
I'm in a nice manor house, not too far away from the docklands, because I believe my fairly large domain is around that area. It also houses my ship, but I'm not on my ship.
All right. One of your ghouls will walk into the room, and he bows, and he says, "My lady, there is a Mr. Vincent Hennessy to see you."
Yes, please do see him in.
Yes, my lady. Is there any refreshment I may offer you, Miss Swanborough?
I'm very thirsty right now, but it is more important for us to offer the seneschal refreshments before myself. So if you would please offer him refreshments before me, I would very much appreciate it.
If you would, and see if you can find Luciana as As Mary states, she is quite hungry right now.
As you wish, my lady. I shall inform Mr. Henderson. Will you see him here, or shall
Um,
I show him to the? Shall I show him to the conservatory, perhaps?
um, Forgive me. If you could perhaps fix me a drink with something to help ease my pain, I would very much appreciate it.
Macaria has dots of herd, doesn't she?
She has 5 dots of herd.
So yeah, would you like to donate some of the blood to the Rosemary so he may indeed fix her a drink?
Yes.
With
Okay.
with some opiates in it, please.
All right then. He will bow before he will depart, and a handful of heartbeats later, you will see the short figure of Mr. Hennessy walk into the room. He has his hands clasped behind his back.
I will have
Pretty.
just put a cloth over Rosemary's horribly burnt eyes, not a pleasant sight to look at, and makes her look less flagrantly superstitious. She doesn't look like she's been branded to the general public.
So, when I awoke this evening, I was told some rather interesting stories.
I have been recently hearing a retelling.
I'm curious, do either of you, Lady Macaria or my dear Miss Swanborough, know of a man named Ermondi Dertucci?
No, dear Seneschal, I don't believe that I do.
If you want, you can make me. It's an odd roll, actually. You can make an intelligence theology roll to identify who he is.
Is this Christianity?
I
Yes, it is Christianity.
check my character sheet. I cannot make that roll as I have nothing in theology.
More aptly, it's Catholicism, but I.
Oh, it's fine. I can give it a shout.
It's standard. No, it'll be difficulty 7, needing 2 successes. It's a little bit
I
obscure.
get 3. Yeah, I get 3 successes. One of those
Hernando
successes was a
Dertucci is a cardinal in the current Curia. He is the head of the Bureau of Vatican Finances and Monetary Affairs. So he controls Vatican money, basically.
I know of the gentleman. Why do you mean? Actually, I believe I know why, but
Because of this, he will. Hennessy reaches into the fold of his robe, and he withdraws a sealed, or it had been sealed, a sealed kind of scroll case that we use to carry letters. You know, like one of those circular satchels. Before he places it down on the table, he doesn't thump it down on the table, but he places it down with definite authority on the table, like, look at this, before he rolls it across to Macaria.
she'll take a look at it.
As you open it, inside you will find a bank draft written by a very prosperous Venetian trading house. A bank draft for the equivalent of say 20,000, give or take, British pounds, to be honoured by the holder and the recipient, that has been taken out by this individual.
What is
So
this?
he taken out a loan of £20,000.
No, it's a promissory note. It's the equivalent of a check for that amount of money that will be honoured because it's being held by a very reputable trading house, if you understand me. It's how people would carry large amounts of money on their person without carrying large amounts of money on their person.
Oh, so he's given them money?
Yes, essentially, it's the trading house saying this individual has placed the money with us. This is the note saying the person who holds this may reclaim it.
Okay.
What is this, mother? And she's gonna kind of like reach out to touch the paper if she can.
She will, you know, kind of lightly nudge your hand away from it.
Okay. And she'll place her hand back on her lap.
That is an awful lot of money that has been promised.
Indeed, it has been actually already spent, in a manner of speaking. It was issued to the colonial authorities this morning in exchange for a grant of land, namely to encompass the ruined monastery at Coronado, some 5 miles outside the city proper, in the name of the Society of Leopold.
Rosemary winces when he says that.
That is extremely unnerving.
Oh, I am abundantly aware of this. From what I'm led to understand, the individual in question whom you encountered, one Matteo de Calvorne, a priest of the Dominican order, is a roving, or formerly roving, member of that society. However, when he encountered no less than a dozen, and for the record, he does shout, I don't want to shout very loudly, but a dozen of our kind congregating around the marketplace, it was perhaps a sign to him. I'm curious, have you not taught any... My apologies. He restrains himself before he will say, a dozen kindred loitering in the marketplace, simply standing, watching a fiery oration without the intelligence to one of them observe this individual with the manners of auspex to see his true denomination. He publicly identifies himself, and they proceed to interfere with him. Now more will be coming.
I know. I am. Sorry. Kindred a cough. Macaria does not cough. She does not have a humanity.
Obviously.
I'm already in the process of educating my child on the erroneous nature of her actions.
I'm curious, have any of the individuals in question turned? He looks at Macaria and he says, you know that several of them, from what I am led to understand, are well within their rights to demand a life boon from her and by proxy you for the events that took place. They did save her life.
And dear Seneschal, I do believe that they will come to collect at some point.
You can tell, for the record, are you looking at Hennessy's aura or are you not?
Yeah, I'll look at Hennessy's aura.
Oh shit.
Relax, it's nearly impossible to tell if somebody's using auspex on you like that. It's so passive.
Well, I got 7 successes.
All right, what would you like to know?
Actually, you know what? It's the same roll. It would make sense to me because it's basically.
Do you want to karmic sight him?
I want to karmic sight him because it's actually basically just aura perception but better. Is literally how that works.
All right, tell me what you get, because there may be some interesting answers.
So I get basically all of his virtues, his path/humanity rating, his nature, demeanor, willpower, and pivotal points in his past, which is basically his backstory. Tragic backstory.
All right, so hang on. Let me do this mentally. Let me get this correct. Okay, so
and also I also get treated as if I got 5 successes on an aura perception check.
Awesome. So let me just get this right. So list those out for me again, one at a time, and I'll answer each one.
Okay. We'll start with his aura.
He is currently incredibly angry. Not quite to the point. He's not like seething to the point of frenzy, but he's very angry, mixed with concern. You would actually assume, based on that, he's actually concerned for your child. There's actual feeling there.
Aw,
Yeah.
incredible anger.
What's next?
and concern.
Oh, that's so sweet.
I don't be careful. He also said I might have to owe somebody a life boon because you fucking got fucking
Multiple
wrecked.
people.
Yeah, multiple people.
I mean,
I
I
only-
would wager it go down to a blood boon at that point, but yeah.
We'll see.
Depends on how they argue, but continuing.
Oh my god, I don't want to fucking argue with these people.
To be fair, the players in question I actually don't think are going to be that dickish about it. But yeah, no.
I don't know. Argue with these people. It's gonna be hard to negotiate. Not because I don't want to owe the debt. I mean, I don't want to owe the debt, but who wants to owe like a blood boon?
Also, I love that you're using that claim. I'm so happy about it.
I'm getting hoisted by my own petard. This is horrible.
Right.
I wrote the boom rules.
Anyways, next.
So next is nature, demeanor, and humanity / path.
His nature is benefactor. His demeanor is enigma. He is he has a path rating of 9 on Road of Chivalry.
Specifically, the branch of Road of Kings as opposed to the Path of Honorable Accord.
Correct.
Okay. There is actually a subtle but important distinction.
Yes.
Any outside influences on their mind or soul?
No. No.
Okay.
Ooh, on their soul. Yes. His is not the only soul that occupies that body.
Oh, somebody got in trouble.
Okay, that could mean several things. One of them is, I mean, none of them are good. But you know, stash that info away for later.
Though I will say there is one interesting point about it because you got 7 successes. Diablerie is the consuming of a soul. It's almost as if there are 2 souls that are linked together inside him. And they both seem at peace with the fact.
That's interesting. Maybe Hennessy was a twin in his life.
No. The Diablerie can be consensual. There are people who are that stupid.
That's also a fair point.
Mithras also managed to acquire a Gestalt entity with Montgomery through force, but yeah.
True.
But yeah, that is anything on the nature of that particular soul, like anything that differentiates it from a kindred soul.
It was a kindred soul.
Oh, it is a kindred soul. Okay,
It
well,
has
that's
its own.
very interesting.
It has its own aura.
Okay, I will examine that later. But 4 successes, basically the rating of the character's virtues, willpower, and humanity / path. You already gave me the Path of Chivalry, so...
His willpower is 10, but then again, I don't suppose you expected anything else. And what was the other one?
Virtues.
5 courage 4.
Nice.
I expected his courage to be highest. And then finally, state of the subject's karma, abstract information, reveals the general balance between good and bad, and may receive visions of the subject past that radically alter their destiny. Also reveals fate and related merits and flaws, including dark fate.
I hate you so much, but okay.
I seem really excited.
All right.
Learning about Hennessy's background.
Hennessy. All right. So as you look at him, Hennessy has done terrible, terrible things in his existence, and that is very obvious. However, the good that he has done quite markedly outweighs the bad. Quite markedly so. He has You see the fact that in his long life, and it has been a long life, Hennessy has because each one of them would have been a moment. He has exactly 4 childe, um, 3 of whom you may have met. There is Fishmouth, there is Whisper, there is Sketcher, who is still around. We decided because Shayna would hurt me if he didn't exist. There's also one, but that one you can't really see because he feels a unique sense of sadness connected with that one, like not necessarily a feeling of loss, not that they are dead, but that they are lost, it's something that deeply affects him.
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck it, I'll give it to you. The soul in question came to Hennessy of its own free will and accord. You see the fact that you get the fact it was someone he was in love with, as in a deep, deep emotional bond. And it was that, or people were going to do, basically, it was the lesser of 2 evils, but rather than a diablerie per se, a discipline was used to meld their souls together. Or thaumaturgy was used to meld their souls together.
Yeah. Would I have any idea what that is, given my kindred lore?
If you had to, I mean, how old are you?
I am almost 500 years old. I predate the formation of the Camarilla and the Sabbat.
I mean, they said the Salubri did things with souls.
Fair. All right.
And if you may ask, because you got so many successes, this is the once in a lifetime offer, kids. You may ask me 3 pertinent questions about Hennessy, and I'll answer them.
Okay. God, this is interesting.
I mean, it's a rank 7 discipline. I want you to feel like you got your bang for your buck, to be fair, you know?
Yeah. It's a case of, man, I'd love to sell this at the auction, but then I'd have enemy 5, so...
No, then we go into the higher dots of enemy as he rips you literally limb from limb.
Enemy... Well, he is... Well, I know a generator... I guess he'd be enemy 8. So many questions to ask. What was the name of his true love?
Anaria.
Okay.
No, sorry, Anmariel. There we go. I can say it right.
Okay. What does he want? What does he desire most in the world?
I have to phrase this in a very particular way.
They should just call this super perception.
Yeah, I'll phrase it to you like this. Hennessy is an ardent believer in the concept of the dream.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I will know what that means. And finally, what is his deepest regret?
that he has failed two of the people in his life whom he wasn't strong enough at the time to save.
Okay.
And he feels that is a very keen personal failure.
Okay.
I want to give him a hug now.
Well, too bad you're blind and you did a bad.
I mean, she didn't really. She did a very reasonable thing.
Yeah, well, she's blind and I'm busy bopping her on the head, so nah.
Those are very intense head pats.
These are
very intense. Head pats intensify.
Yeah, this is the impolite head pat.
The struggle
yeah.
head pat. I've heard of the struggle snuggle, but not the struggle head pat.
Okay, I suppose with that brief but extensive analysis resolved.
You've literally just learned more in a single series of sentences that anyone in Dublin ever probed, because Hennessy has Hennessy is one of the few NPCs who I've written an actual codified history for, and I like to think he's pretty cool.
I think he's honestly one of the favorite NPCs in this game that I've got. I love him.
Bullshit intensifies.
I think.
What was that, Bishop?
Malkavian bullshit
intensifies.
I mean, you're not wrong there.
She'll go. I'm still trying to process everything that has happened.
Excuse me, Seneschal.
Yes, Miss Swanborough.
May I tell you my reasoning for what I did? I understand.
Does your reasoning change what has happened?
I don't believe so, but it may change.
Look, you act as if, from the perspective that I'm standing here, that I am here to chastise you in some fashion. That is not for me to do. Only your sire can chastise you in such a manner should they feel as though the chastisement is meritorious.
I understand.
That's not my business here.
I understand. Perhaps it would still behoove me to explain myself, as you are the Seneschal and you are an extension of the prince himself. She kind of waits for Hennessy to give her leave to say what she'd like to say.
Hennessy kind of hops up on a chair. He sits down, and he will say, "I'm not here to hear your confession, but if you wish to make one, then you may feel free to do so, young one."
She'll kind of extend her hands out towards his.
Hennessy wears gloves, for the record, as a lot of Malkavians do, or as a lot of Nosferatu do. You can assume that his skin might not be particularly pleasant, but he will take the hands in his gloved hands.
Okay, so she'll kind of squeeze his hands a little bit. As I understand it, the Sabbat are a problem for everyone. They are a problem that is not likely nor willing to go away anytime soon. The reason I did what I did, the reason I said what I said, albeit foolish, and I don't deny that it was foolish. Perhaps it was an attempt to preserve our masquerade despite breaking it at the same time. Perhaps it was a way of dealing with two problems at once. if the Inquisition were to turn their sights to Havana, if they were to turn their sights to the Sabbat, would that not rid us of two problems at once? The way that I understand it, I don't believe that the Sabbat would be willing to honor any agreement that they have made, for they are zealots, for they are fanatics. And if two fanatical, two zealotous factions, or I suppose groups, I suppose you could say, were to fight one another, would that not rid us of two problems at once, therefore allowing us to preserve our masquerade further?
There's a very deep sigh from under the mask. Obviously, Hennessy doesn't need to breathe, but I tend to like to give him sounds of exasperation because, by God, that's mostly what he does. He will say, "Child, allow me to express something to you that your mother might not have done, but that I feel is a necessary part of your education."
Please, any amount of wisdom that you can bestow upon me, I would greatly appreciate.
If I wish to fight a battle, if I wish to engage an enemy, I will do so in a subtle way. I will be a knife in the shadows, but the issue here is that it is difficult for me because of the rules that constrain us and because of the ideals that we hold to do else. However, the Sabbat would treat the issue he contemplates. They would be less a knife and more a blunderbuss.
Of course, I do believe that is how they operate, no?
Yes. But the point I'm trying to make here is that the Inquisition can do us damage because of how we operate. We will not send a legion of the newly embraced to their doorstep to eradicate them, because that is not our way. The Sabbat, on the other hand, have no such foibles. The issue here is that how we must engage in shadow, in play, plays into the Inquisition's strengths, the Society of Leopold's strengths, whereas the Sabbat's manner is open and brutal and bloody.
Yes, but the Sabbat are a threat to our masquerade as a whole. They don't pretend to be what we are. They openly admit and flaunt the fact that they are monsters. And if they are a threat to our masquerade, just as the Society of Leopold is a threat to our way of life, is it not wiser, safer even, to have them fight one another? That way we remove two threats to our way of life.
And in doing so, how many innocent people will die? You sent a single. If you sent this man to Havana, yes, chances are a civil war would break out or a conflict of faith would emerge. Yes, you are entirely right. And how many innocent people would die? Either at the hands of the Sabbat or at the hands of other individuals. The simple fact of the matter, young one, is that ultimately, when it all boils away, there would be immeasurable loss of life. So you might save a person, yes. You might even save two or three. But ultimately, in the end, how many would you damn? How many are you willing to damn?
With respect, I am in partial agreement with my childe here. We are not responsible for the actions of the Sabbat. They will not stop shovel-heading regardless of what we do. And our war with them will cause more, regardless, irrespective of whether or not the Society of Leopold has a presence.
And I believe that if they were to war with each other, one side has to win. And if they are distracted with the Sabbat, then they are less focused on us as a whole. They are less focused on our Camarilla. They are less focused than the Sabbat. If the Inquisition was to remove the Sabbat, theoretically speaking, would that not prove greater for the chances of the Anarch movement to maintain itself? And if so, does that not mean that our Camarilla as a whole would be able to bring the Anarchs back into the fold to create a stronger, more solidified Camarilla?
Not these
Can-
ones.
Well, that may be the case, but as I said, it's only a theory. And I know that I acted on a theory and it was foolish of me, but in all honesty, my intentions were pure, despite my forethought.
Once again, you acted, actions took place. However, the actions were public, the actions were obvious. Be the knife, not the hammer, little one.
She will nod. And she kind of she's curious. Damn this fucking flaw. She's gonna kind of reach her hands up to his mask, like to kind of feel his face a little, or like the mask itself. She's not gonna take it off, obviously.
As you reach towards the mask, the reaction is very disproportionate, and I emphasize this. He stands up, and as he does so, the chair he's sitting on flies backwards. Like, he actually recoils very, very, very quickly and very, very violently.
Okay.
The aura that you're looking at goes to fear and a different type of anger. You'd say maybe self-loathing.
Okay. Yeah. Macaria simply, quite quickly, depending on how Rosemary's react, it might come across as a violent grabbing of her wrists, but it's more of a, she kind of puts her hands in front of her own to kind of quickly guide them back to your lap, more so than anything else.
Okay.
Saria gets up from her chair and simply says, "My apologies."
As Macaria contemplates for a moment, you've never seen the Seneschal without his mask.
No.
You actually don't know anyone who has.
Nope.
So you would assume that maybe, obviously, the Malkavi or the Nosferatu flaw being as it is, maybe it is a source of shame. He breathes for a few moments, clearly centering himself. You'd assume that even though he, once again, doesn't need to breathe, that he is centering himself and the breath helps, before he will say, "I do not like to be touched in such a manner."
I understand, dear Seneschal. Please forgive me.
Needless to say, the fact of the matter remains, Macaria, that this entity, this member of the society, now knows your childe's face. This causes issues.
I've been explaining these things to her. As you say, it is only going to become a growing problem, and I can only assume there were other kindred there. This figure will also know their faces as well.
Quite correct.
And they're already whipping the populace into a fervor. She looks annoyed for a brief moment.
I
They
would
always do.
I would like to activate heightened senses smell. What does Hennessy smell like?
Correct.
He doesn't.
He doesn't, so it's clean
You would
version
assume.
of
I was going to say you would assume that he actually goes to an incredible length not to have any distinguishing smells.
Or that he is using obfuscation to mask them.
Indeed.
Interesting.
Personally, I believe one of our first steps would be to calm the populace and prevent them from being stirred up into a mob any further than they already have been. It's always been one of the Inquisition's favorite tools. It is harder for them to operate without the support of the society that they are a part of.
I agree with this statement. However, we are currently faced with the issue that many of the people after the spectacle yesterday, when they saw a holy man chastise a woman only for her eyes to start to bleed in public, believe that there is an infestation of otherworldly forces in Port Royal. Unfortunately, the fire has been given fodder and fuel.
Is there no way to turn this around on them?
How?
Perhaps counteractive measures somehow.
Maybe
Populace that he's not what he says he is.
if we would need to rob him of his legitimacy and either fabricate some explanation or find a way for the legitimacy of his position within the faith to be taken and counter accuse him of witchcraft, but that would be more difficult, and it is not exactly within my particular purview, although I have many means of access.
I believe that for the time being, we are going to placate the crowd.
In what manner? She does raise an eyebrow at that. That concerns her slightly.
A body resembling the individual whom is such accused will be found tomorrow in a burned out remains of a house just south of the city. They will be found with various different forms of paraphernalia that would suggest some kind of lacrid infestation of the very entity the priest was speaking about. However, it will seem as though they have taken their own life. Not my preferred method, but then again, effective.
Yeah, that saddens Macaria a little bit, as it obviously involves someone's death.
Murder! All aboard the murder train.
Oh my god.
That is legitimately a song. Check it up. All aboard the murder train.
I will after we get done here.
Then we should work to diffuse these public gatherings of kindred. Perhaps an edict from yourself of a prince, that should be enough to deter most kindred from doing such things in the future. Particularly when it is, well, all of them already know, from what my childe has told me, that the Inquisition is now in the city.
Perhaps we restrict all kindred gatherings to
There already are places where we may gather safely. I do not understand how we did not simply use those as opposed to gathering out on the street like vagrants.
Low-key mama is salty. She's just there counting the blood / life boom she might have to give out, being like, no.
Perhaps it may be wise to restrict all kindred gatherings to Elysiums.
I don't think that will be necessary for the moment. The Ox is a fairly safe place. There are safe locations, although we will need to be careful. If there are any... If there is any manner in which we are conspicuous, we will need to mitigate that in some fashion. But most of these locations are fairly inconspicuous and are used for that very reason. We will need to be vigilant. As the Senator has said, more will be coming. All kindred will need to be aware of whether or not they are being followed or tracked, and where the society is planting its feet. We have this ruined monastery, which they'll obviously be using, but I can't help but feel this is in some ways... It is fairly obvious due to the significance of the transaction that was discovered. They will likely have other safe houses and caches that they are looking into building if they have not already established them.
On this matter, you and I are inclined to agree. The interesting point about the monastery is it is very difficult for kindred to access due to the faith that permeates the very building. It was supposedly created during the first colonial settlements of the island, and so it is still a place that is a keynote center for much faithful activity. It is disturbing for us to walk there.
But is it disturbing for our proxies to walk there, I wonder?
On that, I don't know. Possibly, but then again, anything is possible.
I've no doubt that if they utilize the abilities they've inherited from us, it will no doubt work for them in the same way that it worked for my child. But perhaps if they restrain themselves, we may be able to access that location through them.
Are you offering your own ghouls for the purpose?
She considers this. My ghouls need some more time to grow, but if the situation necessitates it, then I will do what I must. We will do what we must. The Inquisition is too dangerous.
They have been hunting us for a very long time, since before the Anarch Revolt, and they continue to do so. You are right in your assessment that this is a great and mortal threat, and it is one that I will not see overwhelm this city. As to your childish suggestion that we should divert their attention to the Sabbat in Havana, that is a possibility. However, the La Sombra are known to have deep ties with the Catholic Church, which allows them to deflect much of the Inquisition's activities.
True.
Well,
I suppose it...
The church's rumor of corruption may be a card we could play.
Ah, yes, that was the Inquisition's excuse for last time for targeting their clan. They weren't necessarily incorrect.
No. However, the voices in the Curia have since changed, and I am led to understand that the La Sombra influences since the creation of the Sabbat have become more direct. Many of the La Sombra's own ghouls currently take and occupy seats on the cardinalcy. So
Yes, it will very much come down to the bluntness and mistakes of other members of the Sabbat.
Perhaps we could coax them into publicizing their existence.
Oh, we won't need to. It is the Sabbat.
Well, when I say coax, Mother, I do mean provoke. But we should perhaps put safeguards into play to protect ourselves. Should we take that route?
I'll be sending many of my allies to ground for the time being, or at the very least, to not deal with these figures lest they be taken into make confessions. She sort of doesn't air quote because I don't think such a thing really exists at this point in time, but she does
By
say
the
with
way,
an added hint of sarcasm.
are you acquainted with the Bruja by the name of Benjamin Hornigold?
I have heard of him, but I am not intimately familiar with the man. It would not be hard for me to arrange a meeting with him, however, given, well, I can get around quite.
Based on your
safely.
testimony, as was presented to my childe, we believe that the dissidents in Nassau, whom even now are a thorn in the side of commerce and legal business, have been actively now observed to be in league and trading with the Sabbat. It,
They,
it would seem.
oh no, if he's talking, I will not interrupt.
Okay. It would seem as though Benjamin Hornigold, Captain Hornigold, is one of the linchpins behind this organization on the island of Nassau. More interestingly still, he has called a meeting of interested mercantile and piratical captains at the behest of an elder of Clan Toreador.
Ah, I believe I know that one. Jux is his favored alias name, Soberquet.
Quite.
He he was the one that traded one of those boons, although the one who owned it has since given it back to him.
Why?
I do not know. It is one of the few times I will ever say that.
It is a display, I suppose, to return something of such great magnitude.
He is retaining the boon over Andu Martel, however, but I believe he wishes to sell it at the auction, or use it to acquire currency. I'm not entirely certain. Well, likely both.
Considering the nature of the auctioneer, I would not like to be indebted to him in that fashion.
My current hypothesis regarding the blood boon, however, is, well, perhaps simply a display of power over the Anarchs and the one who owed it, that they do not need it.
And if
Lucian has very, well, he has no love for the movement in general.
what is this I hear about his child and an obsession?
He has a child, she has a child, she has a child. She smiles.
Such a complicated family line.
Yes, very complicated, in fact. They are at odds, I suppose you could say. His child, one of them, at least, is with the movement.
You see Hennessy stroke the chin of the mask, and he says, "This could be turned to our advantage."
Yes, it has already drawn Lucian's ire towards the movement as opposed to us.
Fascinating.
Although, I do recall something quite interesting regarding his child. While I was present with the Kia seed and we were arguing on the same night he made those accusations. Sorry, she made those accusations. When you initially offered that boon, his child was one of the first to consider it. I believe the Kia seed felt quite betrayed.
It is the nature of dogs to eat dogs.
I know they call
Perhaps-
themselves a movement, but yes, my apologies.
Perhaps that shows not only the fact that there is not as much unison in the movement as they would like us to believe, but that in terms of the childer of Ravane, that the apple does not fall far from the proverbial tree.
He did seem to take pleasure in such a thing upon hearing it. But no sect is monolithic, particularly the anarchs, who prize individualism above all else. I know they have calcified to some extent around the Kia seed, something I find regrettable, given the nature of what they are and the consequences they bring with them to the movement.
I am surprised that Lord Ishar has suspended his rather illegal hunt against the Kia seed, but then again, that entity will do as that entity will do.
It does concern me his, as you say, his rather flagrant disregard for the law and for traditions.
I think that he would not have been so brazen if it had not been obvious that the Kia seed had raised much ire, and even if they were to be rendered unto final death, it would more than likely not generate much of an issue from the perspective of the good and great of the sect.
That is true. The figure would hardly be missed, but then again, they would hardly be missed even now. It does not... It causes us to appear divided when such things happen, and as such...
You and I both know that Prince Hawthorne and Lord Ishar loathe one another ever since the issue as it pertained to the former Elysium and the foundation of he does do air quotes soggy town. There you go.
I do enjoy that name. What is... She seems quite sad that you... She continues. Well, I rather enjoy the name, but yes, and frankly, as one who lost their domain in part due to natural disaster, I very much relate.
I think it is a fair statement to say that we know that there was nothing, quote unquote, natural about the occurrences as it pertains to the formation of that particular area of the city. However, my point being that the domain as a general whole is divided. Prince Hawthorne does not necessarily have the direct power to move against Ishar on a personal basis, particularly as the Pontifex does not often leave his chantry. Or if he does so, he does via the usage of his odd sorceries that enable him to simply be where he desires to be. Which is most infuriating in and of itself.
Yes. It is. It is problematic. There are, of course, ways to deal with one indirectly, but it does make dealing with that particular divide more difficult. But I suppose
Quite
you're
agree.
going. I suppose you're also about to say, well, Hawthorne does not have the personal power to deal with Aisha. Aisha does not have the political power to perhaps say, simply remove Hawthorne as an obstacle in his path, either.
I do not believe that Aisha, to be frank, and as an information broker, it is interesting that I say these words. I don't know what Aisha's political strength is because he hasn't flexed it. I don't believe he can, but at the same point in time, I don't believe he wants to. He
It would-
has had.
It would be very costly for him to remove an elder of Clan Ventru, fatally or otherwise, would cause immense damage to the reputation of the Tremere, and would almost certainly garner a response from the Justicarates. It would be considered a betrayal of the highest order. Particularly when
It
we're
is-
at war with the Sabbat.
It is what it is. As I said, I do not believe that the entity in question has any particular interest in the realpolitik. He seems to be obsessed with these odd Mayan coins.
I want one.
They've seen.
First, Mary is going to. She doesn't know what the Mayan coins look like,
I thought they were
but-
Aztec coins.
or Aztec coins.
It turns out they're actually Mayan. My bad if I said Aztec.
God damn it, I got no wattle for this!
I mean,
Oh.
shut up, Bishop.
I have to buy a whole new language now.
So it's really weird what Rosemary does next. She's gonna fish around in her cleavage, essentially, and
Oh God.
pull out the coin that John Crow gave to her. Not these coins, right? And she's gonna show Hennessy.
Hey, Bishop, you know you're looking at Hennessy's aura?
Yeah.
That's a lot of surprise. That's a lot of surprise. Where on earth did you get that?
A gift.
Is she looking at the, is that the soul coin?
Yes.
Oh, if I recall, this was from an auction that I was not present at.
I had been led to understand that there would be minor side events to this gala, but you do know what you have there, young lady.
A soul. From what I gather.
I too possess one, but to be quite frank, I'm not entirely sure what to do with it. I do not have the capacity to fix it. And while it would be a valuable commodity, I do not like to traffic in souls.
Is there any way to... I feel like it would be appropriate only to release it from its bonds, if that's at all possible. I don't know that it is.
Typically, such things are the purview of the necromancers, but this is largely even beyond them in most aspects. And those that can would likely have little incentive to fix it.
She puts the coin back in her cleavage. There's she has like a pocket or something.
Yes, boob ghost coin.
Yes, that's essentially,
Boob the ghost coin.
that is essentially what it is right now.
That coin is enjoying itself.
She has a nice bosom. She's not large. She's not like top heavy, but she's sufficient.
You said bosom.
Yes.
Bosom.
Yes.
Where was I?
The coins.
Sorry. Yes. Maturity. Hennessy
What
seems to
is that?
contemplate for a moment.
I said, what is that?
What is bosom?
Maturity.
Oh,
Oh,
I was going to say, Colin, sweetheart, darling child. You're probably more of an expert on bosom than I am.
hey.
I'll be honest. I looked down when I said that. Anyways.
Hey.
All right. So, where were we?
You talking about the coins? Like the Aztec coins?
I don't know,
The now
honestly.
Mayan coins.
Sorry.
Sorry.
In all honesty, I have no idea what you should do with these. They are beyond my particular field of expertise. Talk to Master Ambrogino if you wish, I suppose.
Who is Ambrogino? I don't think that she knows who Ambrogino is yet.
Ambrogino
Hennessy,
is a very,
just you
it's a
continue.
very old Giovanni.
Ah.
Quite infamous, in fact.
The disturbing
believe-
ones. The ones that are very creepy.
Rumor from London was that he was responsible for the Great Fire burn a few decades ago, but I don't rate such rumors. If that were true, I doubt Mithras would be particularly pleased.
Of course.
But yes, he is by far and away the eldest and most powerful Giovanni within the Caribbean at this point in time. We are, I suppose you could say, friends. He is known to travel quite frequently, so he finds himself in many peculiar situations.
An oddity among kindreds that they like to travel.
Yes, and he is... He is close to his clan, yet he is far removed. It is strange.
Perhaps we could arrange a meeting? He sounds like a very interesting individual.
Oh, I am to meet him for dinner in a few nights.
May I join you?
I shall ask.
I appreciate that. Perhaps we can breach the subject of this coin.
Brooch.
What?
The word is brooch, not breach.
No, brooch.
Sorry, my English snob kicked in there.
You're good.
Ah. A fellow summoner. The greatest insult I can levy upon Evan. The greatest insult I can levy upon Evan. Call him a southern Englishman.
I mean, why do you hate me, Bishop? Why do you hate me personally?
Jesus, I'm gonna like back out of here and I'll keep score.
Yeah.
Oh wait.
Yes, we could.
Hang on. Just for the record, I have to say though, because it's important and for posterity. Why you gotta do this to me, man?
It's okay. We're all Welsh on the inside.
That's amazing, Kiki. Fucking love it.
That's great. Oh,
Right.
oh my god.
Actually, no. I'm gonna stay this way now. So now I'll be.
There does seem like a good place to call it, though.
Right.
Yeah, there is only one thing. There are just a couple more things that Masaros was going to say. My apologies, my seneschal. I don't believe I've actually asked as to your purpose of being here, unless it has already been discussed.
I came in order to see that your child was alive, and in order to make sure that the gravity of what was going.
Rosemary kind of just has a big smile on her face right now. He came to check on the baby.
I'm vaguely unnerved.
Did he say that? Or was that you?
Yes. He said, I'm vaguely unnerved.
Oh, well, you have my thanks, seneschal. That is very kind of you. She smiles quite gratefully. There is also perhaps, I'm wondering, if you have anything at the auction that currently interests you. I've been considering what I wish to bid. Given my insights, I find myself in a rather peculiar position, despite all that I see and how much it burdens me. I'm quite loath to give much of it up.
I have heard rumors that there's a very amazing hat that is on bid.
It creates auction items filled with whimsy and wonder. Everyone's obsessed with the fucking hat.
Currently on bid that I'm rather interested in, I think.
Jesus, sorry, just everyone's obsessed with the fucking hat.
I'm not buying that hat.
I also want the compass.
Oh, good.
And the key. I want the key too.
You're not going to get all three, but okay.
I mean, I'm not gonna get all three, but I'd like to have at least one.
Look, I'm not getting you the hat. Sorry. Not sorry. I bet the hat is useless as well. I bet that's the best part about the hat. It doesn't even do anything. It's just a nice looking hat.
I mean, do you want to know what the hat does?
Yes.
I mean, not insane.
I mean, not
Okay.
insane.
Thank you, players, for playing. Thank you, watchers, for watching. Fuck off, all y'all. I want to talk about the hat.
Wulu. Again.
All right. You gonna cut the broadcast?
Yes.
Okay.
You absolute unit here.
Yeah, I am.